Hello adventurers! We're here today in Valheim and we're going to take a look at bridges. Originally I was going to try to do a bridge build guide, but just like my island video, it's kind of difficult to build a bridge that everyone can use in any location since there are so many varied rivers and streams in the game and it would be hard to replicate. So instead we're going to look at 5 basic tips for building bridges that will hopefully help you get the job done. Number 1 is to bring enough stone with you to build your bridge in order to build yourself Terraformed Pillars. These pillars can be much easier to build on than trying to reach to the bottom of the water and aim there. On top of the fact that that stone is much cheaper than building up in iron all the way up if you're building a larger bridge. They also give you something to attach logs to in order to get around and get different angles and views of your bridge if you're trying to attach on a different side that's hard to hit. Tip number 2 is to utilize storms to your advantage. Anytime it storms, the tide begins to rise, but it also gets lower than normal, and you're able to get a little bit deeper in the water with the right timing to terraform a little better if it's a deep river. This will take time, and you'll have to inch your way in, but it will allow you to terraform a little better or build a little better in the deeper areas. This also applies to mining and digging it down, whether it's for a dock or for a bridge and you're trying to get it to where your boat can get under it. You may need to get out there while the tide is getting lower in a storm and dig just a bit deeper so your boat doesn't hit the bottom of the water. Tip number 3 may need you to have a raft on hand or something to help you get to the middle of the water, but I recommend building from the middle whenever you're going to start a bridge. At least for the first couple supports, depending on how you're doing it, I would start in the middle of the river and work outward. The deeper supports right in the middle are often a lot harder to place, and it will get a lot easier as you get to the shallower ends. If you're trying to start from the land or the shallower end, a lot of times you're going to be trying to start with stairs if you're trying to make it tall enough to have a boat go under it, or elevate the bridge off the water a little bit, and then after that you're going to have to try and work around the stairs to get supports going out there, and this should all be the easy part. You're going to get to a point where once you get to the middle, it's a whole lot of guesswork on how you're going to place your supports, and it's going to be very tedious. I recommend getting those out of the way as soon as you can and starting with them. Tip number 4 is more of just info in general, but if you want to take a cart across your bridge, you need to make sure it is at least 2 wide. One single tile wide cannot carry a cart in it, and it would suck to go through all that work and then have to expand later. If you're wanting to take boats under your bridge, for the raft you need to have an opening at least 5 meters high and 7 meters wide for the mast. The carve needs to have a opening 6 meters high for the mast and 8 meters wide. Now this is not including on any of them the very top part, so you want to kind of create an angle opening or go just a bit higher. The height I'm giving you is for the actual wide part where the sail comes off. The long ship is 8 meters high and about 9 meters wide. So keep those sizes in mind so you don't have to run tests on your own as you're building, and if you start from the center or are able to, you can build that opening right out the gate to make sure whatever ship you're working with can get under the bridge. And tip number 5 is simply to use a varied style of materials. Don't get locked into just trying to create an iron beam bridge because they're stronger, and don't just relegate yourself to typical wooden beams. Ideally, if you're going to build a bridge, you need to have access to as many material styles as you can and have the materials for them. Iron poles and beams are phenomenal. They can go farther than anything else, but you're going to quickly be burning through iron if you're trying to go over long distances, especially horizontally. But if you take cordwood poles off of iron beams, they can make it quite a good distance, and they reach 4 meters, which means you have to build less of them, and they will be much cheaper than iron. There is no replacement for angled wood beams, so if you're trying to create an archway style look, you are going to have to use those at some point. And some of the best bridges I've seen, or the prettiest bridges I've seen, are mixing all these different materials, so don't be afraid to do so. Depending on what you have access to or what materials you're trying to use, also make sure you incorporate some stone pillars since these won't rot in the water at all, and they can elevate you up in order to get started. Alrighty guys, there are just 5 basic tips to help you get started on building bridges. There are a ton of beautiful looking and majestic looking bridges on Reddit if you go and check it out there. I am not very artistic, so I can't build any bridges that look like this, but I did study a lot of them for a while, read through some comments and tips that the builders were giving, and try to put together this list of 5 tips for you. Hopefully they help you in your building and can be an aid in some way. I appreciate you joining me. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.